Le monde. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for your patience. We were just dealing with the last minute technical hiccups that are always part of these Zoom events. So I'll just give another a minute or so for folks to log in, and then we're going to get started. While you're getting familiarized, I'd just like to refer. Well, you've probably seen the welcoming page. There is a section of tonight's Cumberland Ward Environment Debate that involves questions from the public. Alors, si vous avez des questions, envoyez-les à Emily Grenier, @ecologyottawa.ca. Et elle va vous aider, on va mettre les questions, poser les questions aux candidats. Alors, ce soir, maybe so I'm going to be switching between English and French throughout as to the best of our ability, and I think that's probably the spirit of the debate tonight. Great East End Board debate where I've already heard two of the candidates speaking in French, so I think we're in good company here. We're going to be, asking questions and expecting answers in English and in French throughout the night. So that's just some of the ground rules, but I'll go over those in a second. I just wanted to take this opportunity to say good evening to everyone on behalf of Ecology Ottawa. My name is Rob Barnes. I'm the Executive Director of Ecology Ottawa. And ce soir, nous avons l'assistance de Émilie Grenier, qui est notre une organisatrice à Ecology Ottawa, maintenant basée à Colombie-Britannique, mais quand même, elle travaille pour Ecology Ottawa et nous aide à présenter le débat ce soir. So I wanted to give a warm welcome to the candidates who joined us tonight. And it looks like now we have 4 candidates tonight. Et les 4 candidats sont Yvette Achiri, Lise Pascal Inamucho, Greg McCauley et Mark Scharf. Alors, est-ce qu'il y a s'il y a des autres candidats, juste envoyez un message à Emily et on va vous aider à joindre le débat. For those of you who are who are new to this and joining us, we have invited all candidates with email addresses to respond to an election survey that we sent out in August. And then we invited everyone who responded to the survey to this debate. And we received regrets from Denis Labrèche and Catherine Kitts, who also filled out the survey but are unable to participate in tonight's debate. For those of you who are interested in the survey results, we encourage you to check them out at ecologyottawa.ca. So tonight's format is simple. We're going to randomize the order so that everyone has a chance to speak first, second, third, and last out of the 4 candidates. So we're going to go in a few rounds. And in terms of the basic format, there's a space for candidate introductions where we're going to try to keep them as much as possible to 2 minutes each. Then we've got crowdsourced questions on Cumberland issues from Ecology Ottawa supporters. We've emailed folks in Cumberland and received some suggestions in terms of issues to focus on. Then we've got some Ecology Ottawa questions on citywide issues. And then we're turning it over to the floor. So again, please send Emily your questions for the candidates, and we'll see what we can do in terms of asking those questions. Not too many questions will make it, but we hope to pick 1 or 2 really great nuggets, and then closing statements from the candidates. At this point, are there any questions from the candidates at all about process? Or are we good to go? Good, I'm seeing some head nods, and I think we're in good shape. Okay, a thumbs up, that's great. Excellent. Okay, alors allons-y. On va commencer avec les introductions. Alors les candidats, candidates, vous avez 2 minutes chaque pour expliquer un peu de vous-même. Who are you and what is your environmental vision for Ottawa? So why don't we start with Lise Pascal. Please go ahead, Lise Pascal.
Environmental vision for Ottawa.
Is Pascal, if you're speaking now, we can't hear you. So maybe you're on mute.
It's complicated.
You are on mute. Yeah, here, let's unmute first.
There
we go.
Said that I could not unmute myself, so that's why I was like, please unmute. Merci beaucoup tout le monde et Ecology Ottawa d'avoir organisé ce débat. C'est un sujet très important. And also my introduction in English. My name is Lise Pascal Inamucho, and you know, I'm a proud Canadian, but I came here in Canada in 2006 as an asylum seeker, became a refugee, and now guess what? I am running in the Cumberland by-election to become the city councillor, if you elect me. And one thing you need to know about me is that I never expected, and I still never expect anything to be handed to me on a silver platter. I worked hard, you know, to put myself through college, worked as a security guard and then a public servant, and here I am today. So why am I running? You might ask yourself this question. I'm running because my track record proves that I have the passion and drive to serve and advocate for my community. And, you know, and that's what I'll do, as I do every day. And my community engagement, now I'm director at 613-819 Black Hub Noir, where we have help fight anti-Black racism, co-chair Women's March Ottawa to advance women's rights, and director of community service at Rotary Club of Orléans, where we also have a project with the ARCAT, the Rotary Climate Change Climate Team Action for an Orléans forest. So I'm running because I care, and I'm running because I know how to fight for my community. That's what I love to do when it comes to the environment as well. I care about the environment. That's why I'm here tonight. And over the course of this campaign, I've spoken to thousands of residents and in the suburban, in the rural parts of Cumberland ward, and they're concerned. Some of them are concerned about environmental issues. And that's why I'm in my platform, I talk about, you know, green initiatives from banning plastic to, you know, protecting our green spaces and to recycling, as simple as that. And so, I don't know, another reason is that representation matters. That's another reason why I'm running in this Cumberland by-election. And because representation matters, to have more women, but also diversity at City Council, I know that I add a different perspective that is very much needed during these challenging times and into the future. Alors, merci beaucoup pour ce temps. Et I'm looking forward to respond to your questions.
Thank you very much, Lise Pascal. Up next, we have Mark. Mark, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your vision for the city and environmental vision? And Mark, I think you're on mute right now. So if you just want to unmute yourself. I'm gonna ask you to unmute, and so I think you just need to press unmute. Okay, why don't we move ahead? But Mark, we're going to come back to you, and I'll see when you're unmuted when your microphone you know, icon indicates that you are. So we'll come back to you, Mark. Let's move on to Yvette. And Yvette, would you like to introduce yourself and say a few words about your environmental vision for the city?
Yes, of course. Hello, bonjour. Je m'appelle Yvette Achiri. Je suis une résidente du quartier de Cumberland où je vis avec ma famille, mon mari et mes 2 filles depuis plus d'une décennie, et je suis également une de vos candidates qui se présente pour devenir votre prochaine conseillère municipale ici au quartier de Cumberland. Je veux remercier Ecology Ottawa d'avoir organisé ce débat ce soir et pour le travail important que vous faites pour une ville plus verte et plus juste pour tous. First, I want to acknowledge that we are on the unceded and unsurrendered territory of the Algonquin people. Something immensely important to mention during a debate focused around the environment. As the original stewards of this land, Indigenous communities have always fought to maintain this territory, and we must follow their lead and include them in any discussions around decisions at City Hall concerning the environment, and that is one of the things I will strive to do as City Councillor. Friends, in many respects, we are facing one of the most difficult periods in our city's history. A global pandemic, a climate crisis, housing crisis, and opioid crisis. We need a city councillor that is willing to fight for a better future for us and for our children, even when it might be uncomfortable to do so. That means having someone at the council table who's not reliant on developer influence, someone who's ready to stand up and to keep important programs like Energy Evolution funded so that we can adequately tackle climate change, and someone who's also ready to put residents at the center of the decision making at City Hall. I promise that if elected on October 5th, I will be that person. Thank you, and I'm looking forward to the debate tonight.
Merci Yvette. I think it looks like Mark. Mark, are you ready to go? Please feel free to introduce yourself and maybe talk a bit about your vision for your environmental vision for the city. Still having some issues, I think. It looks like you're unmuted, but for some reason the sound's not coming through. So let's keep on maybe working on the technical issues, and Emily is there to help Mark if you need a hand. And in the meantime, let's go to Craig. Craig, please feel free to introduce yourself. Say a few words about your environmental vision for the city. You're on mute right now, Craig. It's still on mute here. I'm gonna ask to unmute. There we go.
Oh, geez, sorry about that. I don't know what, okay. Phew. Can I pass and wait for Mark? No. All right. Okay, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
All right. So really, I don't know what to say in 3 minutes. No one wants to listen to me for 3 minutes, but let me just say something about the questions about the, let me look at the answers of the candidates, the ones that did answer your survey. The first one was election financing, and everyone agrees it's not a good thing, except Catherine Kitts, and she'll only be accepting legal donations, which, anyway, I think everyone understands what that means. Renewable city, I see Lise Pascal has a different answer, no, so that would be a good discussion there. And also discuss with Mark about that, because I really think it's a good idea. I voted yes for that. And Catherine Kitts did too, but really her answer is just, I think higher density in the urban core is a priority to reducing sprawl. And like, it's not really an answer. It's just too vague. Okay. Sorry, I'll go a bit faster because I think I'm running out of time. The energy evolution, everyone agrees on that except Mark, of course, so it'd be interesting to hear his perspective. Catherine Kitts' answer again is weak. If you read it, it's just, and then going on to question 3, the official plan, low carbon development. Anyway, I don't want to belabor the point, but I'm very disappointed that Catherine Kitts isn't here tonight, because I would love to ask her some questions about some of the conflicts and what she said previously. And I don't know, not to be nasty to her. I'm sure she's a lovely person, but I think she's the Watson Club candidate, and she's taking the developer dollars. And I just think that this election is not fair. So I just must protest. I don't know who to protest to the mayor, I guess. But anyway, and let me talk a bit about Patrick, okay? Because I think Patrick could possibly finish second in this election because he is financed, I assume.
About 30 seconds left there, just so you know, Craig.
Okay, so Patrick, let me just say, Patrick is not your friend if you're an Ecology Ottawa aficionado, which I'm sure everyone here is. You probably all made up your mind more or less that you're not going to vote for Catherine Kitts or Patrick. That's my guess, if you're watching this show. So Patrick is financed by Larry O'Brien, and if Catherine Kitts makes any more big mistakes, like the mask wearing thing, that's why I'm wearing the mask, you know, well, he'd be a safe. I mean, Patrick's been at City Hall a long time. You know, he knows he's a business candidate for sure. So if you think everything's fine and business is great and you're in the 1% or you don't want any change, then vote for Catherine Kitts or for Patrick.
All right, we're at time. Thank you very much, Craig. All right, so I see Mark is on the line with Emily, so hopefully we're going to get that resolved soon and hear from Mark. In the meantime, we're going to jump into the first segment, which is crowdsourced questions on Cumberland issues. So right now, I'll ask the same question to all candidates, et on va poser la question en français. Alors, si vous voulez une traduction en anglais, je suis confortable de faire ça. Alors, voici la question. Interrogés sur les problèmes environnementaux locaux, les résidents de Cumberland ont exprimé leur inquiétude pour la biodiversité locale. C'est menacé par les aménagements proposés qui ont un impact sur le parc de conservation La Lande et aussi Mer Bleue. Alors, en tant que conseiller ou conseillère, que feriez-vous pour protéger les espaces verts locaux et pour renforcer la biodiversité urbaine? Alors, on va commencer avec Lise Pascal pour cette question. You're on mute once again. Just feel free to unmute yourself there. Are you, Lise Pascal, are you able to unmute? OK. Non, hein? OK, on va poser la question à Yvette et on va retourner à Lise Pascal. Yvette, voulez-vous répondre à la question concernant la biodiversité et la biodiversité urbaine et les espaces verts?
Bien sûr, est-ce que vous m'entendez?
Oui.
Oui. Alors, je protégerai les terres agricoles les plus fertiles, comme celle de Navan, pour qu'elles ne soient pas perdues dans l'expansion des limites urbaines. J'ai parlé avec de nombreux résidents depuis que cette élection a commencé et je sais qu'une des grandes préoccupations, c'est la protection donc, des terres agricoles. Et définitivement, je ne suis pas pour les options proposées concernant les limites urbaines. Tout simplement, dans un premier temps, je pense que ce n'est pas le bon moment de le faire dans cette période de pandémie. C'est important de... C'est important...
Now the microphone's got green on it.
C'est important de s'arrêter un petit peu et puis de regarder, de prioriser. Et également, je soutiendrai l'interdiction des plastiques à usage unique et j'assurerai une réponse plus efficace et proactive de la ville face aux dangers d'inondation, notamment par la construction de stations de pompage et de bernes en augmentant l'aide financière pour ceux qui subissent les dommages et aussi en imposant les normes plus rigoureuses pour le développement et les zones à proximité de plaines inondables. Merci.
So I think we've fixed Mark's microphone. If we're ready to have Mark say a few comments.
Hi, Rob. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Oh, pouvez entendre.
Sorry, folks, some technical difficulties on our end. Yes, we can hear you, Mark, loud and clear, but you're now back on mute. Would you like to say a few words? Still muted. So let's go to Lise Pascal for an answer to the last question, which was, as the councillor, what would you do to protect local green space and strengthen urban biodiversity? You'll need to
Et
unmute
merci
yourself.
beaucoup.
Perfect.
Donc, je vais répondre à la question en français, si vous le permettez. Tu sais, en parlant avec les résidents, aussi bien au milieu rural que dans la banlieue, ça m'a vraiment touché combien ils se sentaient comme quoi l'espace vert n'est pas une priorité pour la ville. Et peu importe les actions que la communauté met en place pour se battre pour conserver les espaces verts contre les constructeurs, on dirait qu'ils ne sont pas écoutés. Bien que la ville d'Ottawa veut bien aussi travailler sur la biodiversité et le changement climatique, mais l'action est très lente et les actions comment dire ça, ne concordent pas avec les mots ou les promesses de la ville d'Ottawa. Donc, par exemple, sur la rue Nantes, et la rue Nantes et l'intersection de la rue Nantes et Brianna Way, la voie Brianna, il y a une forêt là qui est très importante pour la communauté. C'est proche de l'école des sentiers. Puis, la forêt qui est là est très importante parce que non seulement il y a des espèces qui y habitent, c'est à leur lieu d'habitat, mais aussi parce que les résidentes aiment bien prendre des marches, c'est bien pour la santé psychologique. Et donc, il y a beaucoup de bienfaits, plus qu'écologiques, mais pour notre vie. Et donc, ils se sont battus parce que la ville d'Ottawa a accepté qu'un constructeur puisse acheter un bout de terrain. Ça veut dire qu'il va falloir détruire une grande partie de la forêt. Puis ils sont en train de se battre et ne comprennent pas pourquoi. Alors moi, je propose justement dans mon programme politique une initiative que j'aimerais faire une fois élue, ce serait de travailler avec la communauté. Par exemple, le Club Rotary d'Orléans qui a son équipe d'action sur le changement climatique, avec leur projet de créer des forêts. Ça, c'est bon. Mais en créer, mais ne pas pouvoir les protéger contre les constructeurs, c'est quelque chose d'important. Donc, c'est pour ça que je parle aussi pour la biodiversité, comme j'ai répondu dans le sondage. Je parle d'être une championne pour la biodiversité en demandant est-ce que la ville puisse approuver, comment on appelle ça, comme des protocoles de... on doit faire la suivi de tous les espaces verts. On doit aussi revoir les protocoles en place pour pouvoir s'assurer que, franchement, ces espaces sont intouchables par les constructeurs, qu'il n'y ait pas de changement de zoning là, qui viennent changer ça. C'est comme ça qu'on va les protéger. Sinon, continuer à construire et sans tenir en compte de ces espaces-là qui sont importants non seulement pour les espèces, pour la biodiversité, mais aussi pour les résidents, pour leur bien-être psychologique et mental, ça ne concorde pas. Moi, je me propose d'être une championne pour ça. Et donc, parce qu'une fois qu'on perd cette biodiversité-là, on ne peut pas la récupérer. Et c'est pour ça que pour moi, c'est pour ça que je dis aussi, et c'est pour ça que j'ai appris l'argent des constructeurs, pour que je puisse être une voix indépendante et vraiment être une championne et me battre pour la communauté. C'est de dire, il faut qu'on développe une relation avec les constructeurs qui puissent répondre aux besoins de la communauté. Et donc, c'est de travailler avec la ville justement pour revoir les protocoles qui disent qui protègent et qui disent que c'est intouchable, que peu importe ce qui peut changer dans le zoning, qu'on ne peut pas toucher ces espaces verts-là.
Merci.
En payer, c'est bien, mais il faut aussi les protéger.
Excellent, merci.
Ouais.
Alors, on va maintenant demander, Marc, est-ce que ça va avec toi? Est-ce que c'est possible? Are you able to unmute yourself and speak into the mic?
Can you hear me now, Rob?
Yes, we can. Yes, great. Please feel free to introduce yourself And maybe while you're at it, take a shot at the question. As a councillor, what would you do to protect local green spaces and urban biodiversity?
Well, Rob, I've been a police officer for almost 30 years. I'm retired. And we also have farmed this particular area since 1921. I'm a big supporter of green space, of trees. I have a big oak tree, well, it's 10 years old or so, that I acquired through initiatives such as your group from the city, planted on the farm. And I'm, at the end of the day, if I'm elected, I certainly will be doing everything I can to pursue green space, trees. This is the city of Ottawa. It's the capital of Canada, and I think it should be the best looking city in the country.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Mark, for your introduction and for those words. Now on to Craig. Let's hear from Craig. So again, candidates are always invited to answer in the language of their preference. We'll be mixing up the way in which we ask questions, but if there's ever request for a translation, happy to provide it. La question, Craig, était: en tant que conseiller, que feriez-vous pour protéger les espaces verts et pour renforcer la biodiversité urbaine à Ottawa? You're on mute right now.
OK, now I'm on. OK, excusez. Est-ce que tu peux répéter la diversité urbaine?
Oui, la biodiversité urbaine
biodiversité.
et les espaces verts.
OK, merci, j'ai compris. Premièrement, j'approuve entièrement la réponse de Yvette. Je trouve rien à redire à ce qu'elle a dit. Donc, et Lise Pascal aussi. Mais pour ajouter, je pense qu'on sait tous quel est le vrai problème, c'est qu'on doit limiter l'influence des développeurs à l'hôtel de ville. J'habite même pas à Cumberland, j'habite à Bell's Quarters, mais je vois ça d'ici là. On construit plein de nouveaux développements, on agrandit la frontière urbaine et le ceinture de verdure en mange un gros coup. À côté de chez moi, maintenant, c'est 4 voies. Haute vitesse, on fait tuer les ours. C'est vraiment ridicule qu'on a investi 40 millions de dollars pour des projets qui ont vraiment... S'il n'y a pas une urgence climatique, d'accord, mais on ne peut plus... il y a une urgence. Donc, ce qu'il faut faire, évidemment, c'est arrêter de construire des gros palais à la campagne pour les gens fortunés et aussi leur donner de l'essence quasiment gratuite. Là. Ils se plaignent tellement, ces gens-là, la taxe sur le carbone et tout ça, mais c'est rien. Moi, j'ai une auto et si je veux aller au centre-ville, si je veux aller à Cumberland, ça me coûte presque rien. Je ne paye même pas ma pollution. Ce qu'il faut faire, c'est une taxe sur le, comment on dit en français, a congestion tax. Come on, really. Si on veut être sérieux, là, on doit, l'auto privé, là, pour les riches, là, non, c'est le transport en commun qui doit primer, ça doit être gratuit. Franchement, je veux une vision à long terme, là, ça presse. Et tout ce qu'on a, c'est des politiciens, beaucoup de politiciens corrompus. Je vais le dire carrément, là, c'est corrompu, les conseillers du Club Watson, qu'est-ce qu'ils font? Ils gardent seulement le court terme, surtout les prochaines élections. Et je ne suis vraiment pas satisfait du fait qu'ils n'osent même pas venir ici pour défendre leurs idées. Ce n'est pas la peine. Là. Ils ne croient pas. Je m'excuse, je suis vraiment trop crabby. J'ai eu une dure journée. Là. Mais est-ce que j'ai encore quelques secondes pour terminer?
Oui, encore quelques secondes.
OK. Donc, stationnement aussi, là, les autres candidats, je ne sais pas, est-ce qu'on va fournir du stationnement gratuit au centre-ville? C'est une autre affaire, là. Il faut vraiment... tout le monde doit faire sa part. Et il y a trop de misère de nos jours, là. Il est trop inégal, on fait trop de dommages. Et donc, on a besoin de politiciens honnêtes, qui ne sont pas honnêtes, qui ne sont pas payés par les développeurs, pas payés, mais subventionnés. La façon qu'ils dépensent leur budget de bureau là-dessus. Donc, je vais faire ma promesse maintenant. Ben, peut-être je vais laisser ma promesse. J'ai une promesse de 1 million de dollars. Un don que je fais aux gens de Cumberland pour les élections équitables. Et on sait ce que ça prend. Ça prend un vote préférentiel. Est-ce qu'il y a quelqu'un qui n'est pas d'accord? Non? Un vote préférentiel?
Le temps est terminé, Craig. Merci, merci pour votre réponse. Merci. Let's go to another question from Cumberland residents. So when we asked them about issues, we heard that the transit is a serious concern for folks in the ward. And obviously in the COVID-19 context, we're seeing budgets, severely damaged at every level of government in countries all over the world, obviously. Ottawa and Canada are no exception. Revenues from transit are down sharply as ridership has plummeted over recent months because of COVID. But Cumberland residents expressed a desire for better transit connections, both from Orleans in general to Ottawa, but also connections between Cumberland and Orleans. And so surrounding communities to places like Trim Road. So as councillor, what would you do on the issue of transit access, especially in light of the budget difficulties at City Hall? Why don't we turn this over to Mark first? Mark, would you like to take a crack at this one?
I'm going to unmute myself. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Look at Cumberland. It takes at least a half an hour to drive from one end of that ward to the other. It's the same as Osgood. That's where I live. And what I would do is people need a little bit of space. They need, it's nice to have a lawn, a tree, a bit of shade. I am a big supporter of the LRT, but it's got to be pulled with a diesel locomotive. This business of trying to run a train like that in this country on electric motors is ridiculous. It's going to be nothing but headaches. People should be able to grab a bus at a park and ride and not end up with all of these delays, getting back to work 2 hours late and all this type of stuff. All that does is aggravates people. It aggravates the system. And at the end of the day, you have to have the basic principles in place to get people where they're going on time. So if I'm elected, I will be doing everything I can to push for a diesel locomotive to pull the LRT. And the city is the biggest city now in the country. It's going to expand, and people deserve good service. And so I will be ensuring that there's no ridiculous contracts like this LRT and this green bin and stuff like that, trying to reduce people's property taxes and get them moving around the city. That's what I will do if I'm elected.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for your answer. Up next, Yvette, would you like to take a crack at the question as councillor? What would you do on the issue of transit access in Cumberland Ward?
Transit is definitely an issue in the East End. It has been for so many years now. Since I've lived in this ward, it is an issue. And what I will do, I do believe that yes, the residents need a proper, a more frequent, more reliable transportation here in the East End. And it's important to remember that Ottawa residents have paid for the LRT via taxes 3 times over municipal, provincial, federal, and as a result of the P3, the public-private partnership, we have not gotten what we paid for. So in addition, there is an absolute lack of transparency and honesty and information as well. So coming from the senior management of OC Transpo, there's a need to be greater accountability. And what I will propose is to cancel the contract with the RTG. I definitely think that the funds right now, we need them to reallocate them to social services to support the community. This is a time of pandemic. I've been knocking doors. Many families are desperate. Many families are worried. As a mother of 2 who have young kids, with going back to school, we need to support the families and ensure that nobody is forgotten, nobody is left out. So with the amount of money that we have been spending on LRT, and yet it is still not effective, I definitely I will propose that we cancel the RTG contract. I will be also a champion for permanent federal and provincial operating funding support for public transit that has come through the Safe Restart Agreement, and as a result of COVID-19 pandemic between the federal and the Ontario provincial government. I would like to expand the fleet of paratransport vans as well. Freeze all the transit fares with an eventual plan towards a gradual reduction in fares. We are in a pandemic. Some people have lost their jobs. People don't have to worry about how they will go to work. I mean, the price of the transit keeps increasing. So I think that having a reduction in the fare will be very helpful in the time. I will be a strong advocate also for the Vision Zero and advocate for strategies like lower speed limits and improved cycling infrastructure that seek to curb cycling and pedestrian road death in our city to zero.
Thank you. We're right at the 3-minute mark. Perfect timing.
Thank you.
Thank you for your answer, Yvette. Lise Pascal, over to you. As councillor, what would you do on the issue of transit access in Cumberland Ward? Please go ahead.
Okay, so I will be very straightforward and talk about 3 action items. First, we know that having a functioning and world-class LRT is it's a necessity for a greener city. And when it's not efficient and reliable, like I've been saying since the beginning of this campaign, then we do really miss the goal, and which is to get residents, using less and less the cars and using public transportation. And so that's why I've been talking about taking it in-house, right? Look for another public contractor or take it in-house because there was a breach of contract. But even though we had the LRT, an efficient and reliable LRT, phase 2 coming into Orleans, the problem is, bus services will still be the backbone of public transportation because, you know what? The LRT doesn't get everywhere. It doesn't get to the south of Orleans, it doesn't get in the rural area. So all these residents do still have to rely on buses. Buses are not frequent, they're delayed. They do not even get to all the neighborhoods. Rural, when I went to campus in Carlsbad Springs, a lady told me that they only get the bus services, twice a day. For seniors, they have to wait a week because you have to book, like it's an appointment. You have to book a week ahead to get that service. And some seniors now, they don't drive because it's dangerous for them to drive. So, and when you're not in the rural and you don't have a car, it's very hard to get around. So bus frequency in the rural and in the suburban areas as well, because Cardinal Creek Village is in the part of the suburban area. They also have bus service twice a day. How is it possible? For youth who don't own cars, how do you get around? So, and I heard also in the neighborhood close to Portobello, a young girl telling me how, it's hard for her to connect to downtown. It's easier for her to go to downtown than to get a bus that takes her to Place d'Orléans. So that's why I do advocate in my platform, I talk about it, and I do advocate for bus frequency. I was at the Public Transportation Committee in November 2019, I think, if I remember correctly, advocating for bus frequency. So, and that's one, but we also need to push for the option 7 of the Brian Copland extension if you want to develop a rapid transit connections to south of Orléans. It makes sense, it's what the community wants, let's get it done.
Thank you very much. Also, right in on time at the 3-minute mark. And Craig, I see your hand is up, and luckily it's your turn. Over to you. What would you do on the issue of transit access in Cumberland Ward?
Okay, so please unmute me. Okay.
You're on mute. You're muted.
muted.
I know, but I have to be, okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, phew. Okay, no, I just wanted to ask about the option 7 for the Brian Coburn, because that was one of the questions that the transit riders asked. I'm sure you answered. And I had to do a lot of research on that because I wasn't really, to be honest, that familiar with it. But I see now that it's a huge issue. And when I'm looking at it, why do you favor option 7? Because the NCC says that it's the most, like I trust the NCC. Here in Bell's Corners, the NCC was against building and widening roads, and they wanted to protect, like I trust the NCC. And I know that it's a complicated issue, but I really don't understand why you prefer option 7. I really had, but anyway.
I can answer that. I can answer that right now. Why do I support it?
Yeah.
Oh, can I answer, or can
No, you
not
can.
allowed to do that?
Well,
I
guess
think within your
it's a
3
direct
minutes.
question, maybe just a really quick answer, and then we'll go back to Craig for the remainder of the time.
Just a quick answer. I support this because it's what the community wants, right? I'm an advocate and in my community engagement outside of being a candidate. And so when I see that the community is supporting an option that will work for them, why? Because Brian Coburn extension goes along Renault and connects to Blair. And because it's all in south, they don't get the transit. It's very hard for them to connect. It's very hard for them to circuler. So, and the other thing with NCC is that I will work with the NCC to mitigate any environmental concerns about Mer Bleue. So it's not only to work with the community, but also with the NCC to mitigate any environmental issues. So, but bottom line, why do I support option 7? Because it's what the community wants.
You'll have about a minute and 15 seconds, Craig, in your time
right.
for this answer.
Okay. You can hear me? Yes. No, that's a good answer. Thanks. But I'm not convinced. Anyway, it doesn't matter because it's not for me to decide. Like you say, it's for the people in Cumberland to decide. And if I were elected, which I won't be, I would, I wouldn't make decisions like that. I would listen to the people of Cumberland Ward and figure out the best answer. But I think what's important is not listen to the 1%, the people that seem to dominate the conversation. And I'm not sure that if just because the people want it in that area, yes, it would be convenient but it's supported wholeheartedly by Stephen Blais and Mayor Watson. And when I see that in the builders, I'm thinking, wait a minute, I would just like to know more about it, respectfully. And I guess all the other candidates agree that the Brian Coburn extension option 7 is good, in spite of what the NCC says. Anyway, I'll let you answer that. But in terms of the question, which was protecting the green space.
Well, it's
transit. Yes,
so we are running low on time, so just another 30 seconds or so.
Okay. Well, I think the LRT has been a huge disaster, and I think everyone here agrees that it's too late to fix it now. I'm not sure if what Yvette suggests is a good idea. I don't think so. But we can't fix it. We have to wait until the real elections in 2022 and get a different council in there. All us candidates are talking as if we can change everything. We won't change the voter council. It'll still be Watson Club, 16-8 or whatever. It's not going to make any, we have to be realistic about this.
Great, perfect timing, Craig. Thank you very much. Alors, prochaine question vient d'Ecology Ottawa. Alors, nous demandons cette question ici concernant le changement climatique. La ville d'Ottawa a déclaré une urgence climatique en 2019 et prévoit maintenant de décarboner complètement d'ici 2050, pardon-moi, conformément à l'objectif de l'accord de Paris. Alors, en tant que conseiller ou conseillère, comment passeriez-vous d'une déclaration d'urgence climatique à une politique efficace sur le changement climatique ici à Ottawa? Alors, je demande des questions. On va commencer avec Yvette.
Merci. C'est ce que j'ai dit tout à l'heure. En ce qui concerne le changement climatique, ça serait donc dans un premier temps de protéger les terres agricoles les plus fertiles, de s'assurer qu'elles ne soient pas perdues dans l'expansion des limites urbaines pour lesquelles la ville est en train de penser en ce moment. Également, ça serait de soutenir l'interdiction des plastiques à usage unique et assurer une réponse plus efficace et proactive donc de la ville face aux dangers d'inondation. C'est ce que je pense qu'il est nécessaire de faire dans ce cas-là.
Merci Yvette. Alors, on va continuer avec Lise Pascal. C'est ton tour.
OK. Alors, moi, vous savez, je vais vous parler de 3 points. So, I want to talk about climate change. And I met one resident who told me that he doesn't believe there's a climate change because, you know, climate always changes, you know. And I said, well, but that doesn't mean that we don't need to do anything to fight it. And so, like, you know, protecting farmland from developments is critical, like we said, and in Cumberland ward. So it's not only critical because of the environment, it's also critical because we, you know, to help them make it easier for them to sell their goods. We depend on their food, right? And so that's very important to also understand that we need to protect the farmlands from developments, not only because of the environment, but also because of us. We need the food. But we also need to protect trees. And when I talk about protecting trees, it's what we covered already: rebuild the urban canopy in urban areas like creating an Orléans forest, push developers to include more mature trees in new developments and not touch them, and work with South Nation conservation to restore trees in rural Cumberland ward, because about 2,200 acres of forests are lost every year in the SNC jurisdiction. So when I talked about protecting the land conservation park that's on Brianna Way, that's just an example. But also, what do we need to take to be worried in Cumberland, to be wary in Cumberland ward? But climate change is because of the flooding that happened in 2017 and 2019. So the city of Ottawa, what I'll do as a city councillor is to say, well, we need to be better prepared and more to make the you know, these areas that are impacted by flooding more prepared and resilient. But also, again, talking about climate change and reducing gas emission, we need to have less cars, you know, in the street. So we need to make sure that we have high cycling infrastructure to permit to help cyclists be able to how to say, circuler without feeling in danger, right? Without being feared to death. We have to also promote the 15-minute neighborhoods where everything will be really close to you. You can walk, you can bike, you don't really need to take the bus or your car, right? So these are, this is what I'll do as a city councillor, if elected, to promote that. So I don't know what else I can say, because when you protect the trees, you prepare your communities to be more resilient to flooding, and you protect farmland from development. That's one thing. However, that means that the city has to look at some regulations and change, like the zoning bylaw. We have to change that process. We have to change the process of giving building permits to developers, that too. So, but okay.
Thank you.
We'll talk about it another time.
There are other opportunities to go back and there are other opportunities to go back and chat about some of these things. And folks, just before we move on, Mark, I'll ask you the question next, but just as some housekeeping, again, if you have questions for the 4 candidates here tonight, please email Emily, emily.grenier@ecologyottawa.ca. We'll be taking your questions and asking them to the candidates. So far, no one submitted any questions. So if we don't have any questions from the crowd, we have others in our back pocket, but it would be great to hear from those tonight. So let's go over to you, Mark, and hear your thoughts. You know, we talked about The fact that the City of Ottawa has declared a climate emergency and now plans to fully decarbonize by 2050. As councillor, what would you do to move from this climate emergency declaration, which some people say is mostly symbolic, to effective policy? What kind of climate policies would you advocate for as a councillor?
Look, I'm a realist, okay? As long as oil is $40 a barrel, you're not going to be able to run electric cars in Canada. The batteries won't take the cold. I know. I have 21 pieces of equipment on the farm. I have propane, electric, diesel, gas, and you have to suit your policy in the city for what people need. We just heard that Pascal says she wants to ride a bicycle and get rid of cars on the road. Once she gets a family, I don't know if she has one now, but you're not going to go and pick up groceries for a couple of children on a bicycle. You need a car, especially out in rural. Cumberland's got a lot of rural. And so you have to, as a leader, as a councillor, you have to balance common sense with the ability of people to live a good life as clean as you can, but it also has to make sense. And at the end of the day, when there's a question that comes up, we'll take the LRT, for example, we're going to run that with an electric motor. I would not sign a contract or initiate any type of endeavor like that without a town hall meeting. I'll listen to the rural folks. I'll listen to the farmers. I'll listen to the people that have done it, the machinists that tell you, I'm a machinist. When steel goes down below 20 below, it shrinks 2 to 3 thousandths of an inch. You can't be running trains and try and keep them on time and stuff like that with electric motors. Diesel, they look after their own heat, they look after their own cooling, and at the end of the day, people have to get around. They have to get to work on time. They have to get to, be able to move around. And so at the end of the day, it's got to be common sense that runs it. And you can't forget, we're in a democracy. It's the people that govern. It's a governance of the people, by the people, for the people. So they'll make the decision, not city council and of course not the mayor. It'll be the people that decide if I get elected.
Thank you, Mark. And now, Craig, over to you. Again, please feel free to respond in the language of your choice. But the question is about climate change and what you would do to move from this declaration of climate emergency that we saw last year to real action on climate change at the city level.
Well, real action on climate change would involve having fair elections, I think, and having politicians that are looking at the long term and not interested in serving their special interest groups. So I think the only way forward is, I really think in the longer term, we're going to have a congestion tax. We're going to have to we'll have to have people with private cars pay for their own pollution, and it's going to be a different way of planning. We can't have car-oriented development. When I see the development springing up all over the place with the expanded urban boundary, it's not sustainable. It's crazy. We can't have people with, I know it would be nice to have it, and I think Mark has a lot of good ideas on what should have been done a long time ago with diesel trains. There was great plans to use that, not involving expensive, but that train has left the station. So I wish, I really think the most important thing that we can do is really elect a government that some councillors, some politicians who really support, think that climate change is real, I guess is what we really need. And I don't see that in, I look at the answers Catherine Kitts has put in here, and it seems strange to me that Mr. Blais and Mr. Watson and all those councillors don't have to take responsibility for the LRT project, which is it's a horrible mess. And it was a foolish plan from the beginning. So why, if they were taking so much credit for it, if it had worked and it's been a horrible failure, why don't they have to wear that? Why are these people so popular? Why are they going to win this election? It makes no sense to me unless you look at how this election is structured and who is financing it. And at the last minute, there'll be a flood of ads on TV, and people will go into the ballot box thinking, this is democracy. If I just vote, I'll go in there, even though it's a pandemic and all that, and I will vote, because if you don't vote, you can't complain. So I'll mark my ballot. The issues haven't been discussed in this election. I mean, here we are sitting around talking about this, but the average person, you can ask 20 people what they think of this, and it's not even on their radar. They've got other things to worry about. So I really think this is a crucial election for the entire city, but it's a shame that no one's paying attention to it. I hope I'm wrong, that there'll be a huge turnout, like 10, 15, 20% maybe, but unless we really get the media interested in this, so it's not too late. A lot of things can happen in the next couple of weeks here. There'll be a lot of things coming out, and there's some interesting things going to happen, I can tell you that. And I hope there'll be enough to get people's attention and make them think hard about this choice and get interested and not go into the ballot box. And if you see a French name, you're going to vote for a French name because you're French. Or if you don't like, people shouldn't vote for me because I got an Anglo name. But that's how I got to be fourth in the election for mayor, because I wish we had a more interested electorate. It sounds like I'm lecturing people, so just erase it all. I'm sorry. It's just been a long day, and I feel this election is, we have a huge opportunity here, and if we had united all of the 8 candidates, even Mark, all of you people together, one candidate against Catherine Kitts and Patrick, like one. Why are we splitting the vote into 8 different ways when everyone here, except for Mark, and I really respect Mark, I wish he could talk more about other issues that are being ignored here, like corruption and
we're at time now there, Craig.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's
weak. It's weak.
It's the task of the timekeeper is always a hard one. So I always have to.
Well, it's better than the Rogers debate where you got a big thing and like that was terrible. The Rogers debate.
No big signs. Yeah.
No, come on. Let's talk about the Rogers debate. That's way more interesting than.
Let's move on to a question about 15-minute neighborhoods, and so. This is a new buzzword you might have heard. The City of Ottawa has been using it a lot lately in its new official plan and some of the policy papers about the new official plan, which is a major policy and planning document that the city is starting to write. The new one is, and it'll shape the city for decades to come. The City of Ottawa has embraced this concept of a 15-minute neighborhood, which in the strict definition, this means communities where residents can access schools, cafes, grocery stores, and other basic services within a 15-minute walk from their homes. Obviously, the City of Ottawa is a really big place. You've got rural areas, and Cumberland ward is very interesting. You've got suburban and rural areas within the ward. So it might not be a wholesale application, but what ideas do you have to foster more 15-minute neighborhoods within Cumberland ward in line with the city's vision for 15-minute neighborhoods? So why don't we start with Lise Pascal? I don't see Yvette on the call, so I'm going to, if we see Yvette again, we'll ask, we'll try to bring her back in the loop. But for now, let's. I guess we're down to 3 temporarily at least. So Lise Pascal, please go ahead in the language of your choice in terms of your response to this question.
Donc, la première des choses, il faut comprendre que pour le milieu rural, dans la campagne, ils ne veulent pas de nouveaux développements. Et lorsqu'on parle justement des communautés à 15 minutes, ça veut dire que il va falloir en construire de nouveaux. Parce que j'ai beaucoup posé des questions sur ça. J'ai dit, OK, what are we going to do? Are we going to transform the existing neighborhoods into 15-minute neighborhoods? No, it's new developments. And that is out of the question for the rural areas of Cumberland ward, from what I understood from my conversations with residents. And it also gets protecting farmers from land. So, but when we look at the suburban part, it's interesting because we also talk about density, right? not so much as expansion. So that, what I heard about 15-minute neighborhoods is to make sure that we do, qu'on les développe autour, proche du transport en commun. Ça, c'est la clé. Et donc, si ce n'est pas proche, ce serait intéressant. Il faudrait qu'il y ait plus de bus qui puissent y passer quand même, parce que ce n'est pas tout le temps que les personnes vont se promener à pied ou à vélo. Ça dépend des cas, qu'est-ce qu'ils vont vouloir transporter. Il va aussi vouloir avoir de la voiture, donc, ou bien des bus. Donc, si pas de voiture, au moins le transport en commun. C'est ce que j'ai compris de la clé, parce que l'objectif, c'est d'essayer d'empêcher qu'il y ait une dépendance à la voiture. Et donc, si c'est le cas, on ne peut pas tout le temps être à pied ou en vélo. Il faut alors avoir le transport en commun qui est fréquent. Et alors, moi, c'est pour ça que dans mon programme politique, je pars. Donc, ça va bien travailler ensemble. Ça va aider à avancer mon plaidoyer. Si je pars de fréquence d'autobus dans tous les nouveaux développements de 15 minutes ou existants, c'est très important si on veut que cela puisse réussir. Autre chose aussi qui est intéressant avec les communautés à 15 minutes, justement parce qu'on parle de densité. OK? C'est pas tout le monde, selon mes conversations, il y a de la réticence à adopter cette vision-là. La réticence, pourquoi? Parce qu'on ne veut pas en arrière qu'il y ait des commerces, parce qu'on est à l'aise avec l'environnement banlieue. Je ne sais pas si vous comprenez un peu. Puis des fois, je parle de raison, je dis, mais est-ce que ce n'est pas être un petit peu snob? Hein? La population à Ottawa augmente tellement rapidement qu'il va falloir qu'on soit confortable dans Cumberland, d'en accueillir plusieurs et d'être accueillant, surtout en parlant de logements abordables. En tout cas, ça, c'est notre sujet. Mais moi, alors pour être très brève, je vais dire pour faciliter ces communautés, to make sure that we reach our goal with the 15-minute neighborhoods, we have to have two things. It's to make sure our roads are safe for cyclists and pedestrians, right? And also make sure that there's bus frequency, because the buses are always going to be the backbone of public transportation. I don't know if I still have some time to elaborate, but car speeding is one of the biggest issues in rural and in suburban areas. And
thank you. We're at time now.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Up next is Yvette. So the question, Yvette, is what ideas do you have to foster more 15-minute neighborhoods within Cumberland Ward, in line with the city's new direction in its official plan? You're on mute, and we might, Emily is, okay, you're unmuted.
Merci. Can you please repeat the question? Sorry, I got disconnected and I was trying to get back in.
No problem. So in the new official plan, the city is working on a new official plan, and in that plan, they've embraced the concept of 15-minute neighborhoods. The idea that the city's trying to foster more communities where people can walk to things like schools, cafes, grocery stores, and access other basic services within 15 minutes from their home. Obviously, Cumberland is not the same as other wards, right? It's a rural ward as well as a suburban ward. So there's no scenario where, you know, all rural areas become 15-minute neighborhoods. But in light of some of the opportunities and challenges that you see, what ideas would you have to foster more 15-minute neighborhoods within Cumberland Ward if you were elected as councillor?
I would definitely be interested in looking into that. What seems to be a good option is parking fees based on demand-based model. And this has been proven to both reduce congestion and is the most cost-effective to implement in Ottawa.
Okay.
Excellent, thank you. Craig, would you like to go next and talk a little bit about what you would do to foster more 15-minute neighborhoods within Cumberland Ward? Just so folks know where we are in terms of timelines, after this, we're going to solicit one question from the audience, and then we're going to move to closing statements. So Craig, please go ahead with your ideas for 15-minute neighborhoods.
Okay, I'll be quick. 15-minute neighborhoods are a great idea. I'm very happy they're in the official plan, but I don't think it's a little bit of lip service, really. I don't think that we're going to see much action. It's a lot of talk. 15-minute neighborhoods are wonderful. I live in one. I can bike anywhere I want. I don't have to use my car at all. I almost never use it. I can bike anywhere I want. And I'm a little bit, I don't know, when I hear these, oh, it's impossible. What can you do on a bike? Come on, even out in the rural areas, 15 neighborhoods are important. There are electric bikes, there's all sorts. Have you never been to any cities in the world where electric bikes and 15-minute neighborhoods are the reality? Like, how about downtown Montreal or parts of Ottawa? It's a wonderful concept, and it's not really all that difficult. Well, sure, you can't have it tomorrow, but you could have it if the emphasis wasn't on a short-sighted emphasis on serving the car and expanding the urban boundary and creating these things that aren't sustainable. It's like there's no crisis at all, no climate crisis. So 15-minute neighborhoods, I don't think they should be dismissed. There's a lot of people work from home. There's going to be exciting new changes in public transportation. Speeding can be solved in a second if Mayor Watson had supported photo radar. He had to be dragged kicking and screaming. We can solve speeding in a second. Just put photo radar everywhere. I don't want cameras watching me everywhere, but in the case of photo radar, can we not put up with that? You know, really? Wouldn't it not do away with speeding right away? It would. And other things like cycling infrastructure. Now, the suburban part of Cumberland Ward, it reminds me a lot of, I live in a suburban area and I've visited the entire city, and they have the same problems with cycling infrastructure there. I know this is going to get a lot of, oh, cyclists and all that. Geez. But really, there's a lot to be done there. And when I look at the cycling infrastructure in the suburban parts of Cumberland Ward, it's just like out here. It is not acceptable. When you go into an intersection, you're not protected. You're not going to get your slower cyclists and your families and your older people cycling if you continue to scrimp on infrastructure. And don't tell me there's no money for it. When you look at well, anyway, I'm preaching to but I really think all the people listening here should really get a little bit more vision here. And I don't want to be, I know, Mark, things are a lot different out there. You're probably not even listening now, but don't be so pessimistic. It could be done. We just need to get better politicians in charge. And the only way to get that, I'm sorry, it's ranked choice voting and fair elections, and end to developer influence.
Perfect timing. We're at the 3-minute mark. Thank you very much.
Terrible speech. Terrible speech.
Well, now it's over to Mark, right? Mark, would love to hear your thoughts.
I'm getting 3 votes, and I've lost them all now. I can't even vote for myself.
What ideas do you have, Mark, to foster more 15-minute neighborhoods within Cumberland Ward? Right now, your video is off, and your microphone looks off. So I'm not sure if you're still there. It looks like you've just disappeared. This is one of the things that happens on a Zoom call where candidates can have technical issues and then disappear and then reappear. It makes it interesting. Imagine being in a debate where people were teleporting in and out. So let's move on. Let's move on to the audience question. And the audience question that we have, I think, is a really interesting one. You know, and let's preface it with the idea that buying locally grown food is a great way to diminish carbon footprint, right? And of course, Cumberland it has rural areas associated with it and farming communities. So the question from the attendee is, what would you do to facilitate farmers being able to grow more products locally and consumers to be able to access more locally grown foods? So Yvette, let's hear from you in terms of your approach to local food.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I definitely think that during this time of pandemic, we should allow farmers to, to grow more local foods. And I have one constituent who actually questioned me about what was my thought about l'élevage donc de poulets dans le jardin. Et j'ai dit que j'étais en faveur en faveur de cela. Alors, to facilitate that, what I think that I'll be doing is really to ensure that the rural residents, they see, first of all, more of the services, especially the self-services that they already pay through the property taxes and local development charges, especially that. And I will also create more opportunities to directly provide food to the resident across Ottawa. As well, I will be consulting, I'll be calling for a town hall and to discuss with the entire residents in the rural area to better assess what plan of action we can put in place to work together towards the better needs for the community.
Thank you, Yvette.
And sorry, if I may add also, and also to look into land transfer grants that will help maintain the farms over generations. I've heard the farmers are very, very worried about, how the industry is being destroyed because of the developers. And again, I agree with what Craig was saying. Definitely, we need to have a better balance when it comes to development. The people, the residents need to be at the center of the planning development because right now there is a destruction definitely of the industry of agriculture, which is though one of the biggest here in Ottawa.
Thank you. We're still under time, so great. Thank you, Yvette, for your answer there. Lise Pascal, let's hear from you in terms of your thoughts. How would you facilitate farmers being able to grow more products locally and consumers being able to access more locally grown foods?
So like I said in my platform, I will, and I heard that from a resident actually in Cumberland Village who told me, well, to work with the Ontario Federation of Agriculture, to work with the Canadian organic farmers, they advocate for programs and services to support farmers in rural areas. And so I'll work with them and all levels of government to support these programs and services needed for their growth. That's one. But there's also a need, that's also what I heard at the door with a farmer, a lady who works on a farm, saying that there's a need to how do you say that, change or, adapt the process of granting, the permits to farmers who have to work on the projects, but the rural reality is not understood by the city of Ottawa, and then their projects are not able to move forward. So it's to be able to work on that. I'll also, and I talk about high-speed internet because it's very important now during the new normal. I met with farmers who have to sell their products using internet. They have a website or on social media, and in some rural areas there's no access to high-speed internet, and that's very critical. And not only for that, but also for those who have to work from home or students who have to sometimes work in classes but also go home. So support farmers markets, like the one that happens in Cumberland every Saturday morning, have city programs that commit to buying more locally, to promote buying more locally grown food, help local farmers markets, so that because their food is better, so we have to promote that, and that means we have to also work with the community, but we have to get the city of Ottawa to, I don't know if you understand what I mean by change the process of granting permits to farmers to work on the projects. It has to really reflect the reality, so that and help them work on their projects. There's also promoting the local farmers markets, and also working with the Ontario Federation of Agriculture and Canadian the Canadian organic farmers. So that's what I propose to do. And If
Thank
you
you.
have any ideas, of course, you know, if I'm elected, I'll be consulting. So that
Excellent.
we work together.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Craig, over to you. What are your ideas for improving access to local food in Ottawa?
Well, am I muted? No, that's fine. Okay, what Lise Pascal said exactly, and also what Yvette said, and but I'd like to add a few more ideas, maybe. Like around here where I live in Bell's Corners, there's wonderful fertile land all over the place. Like we're lucky to be in the Greenbelt, but west of that, you know, if you know the western part of the city, it's wonderful fertile land. And I've seen these huge car-centric developments going up there. And it's going to get worse because they've expanded the boundary again. And all those people, like they're sitting there in those boxes and they all have cars and the parking is it just seems like a horrible way to build and destroying valuable agricultural land. I think this will be very, very looked upon as short-sighted in the near future. Now, as far as all the ideas about the farmers markets and how to encourage, like the city has a limited role, but we could do things like other cities have done, like really what you need to do is not serve unhealthy foods in city facilities. Set an example. You know, why we got Coke machines, for example, in City Hall and things like that. We got to put a ban on, like a tax on junk food. Like really, that's the type of thing that would make a difference. You know, if you know, we got to promote health over packaging in the supermarkets. The city could take an aggressive role in this, but I don't think there's any urgency at City Hall about you know, agribusiness too. I see some of the farming practices are going on, and it's not really sustainable. When I look at the land around here and how it's used, you know, to the corn to make fructose, so we can have more corn syrup in all our manufactured products. Like really, I think I'm, you know, I'm not really an expert in this, but I really think that there's a change that needs to be done, and people have to start eating more healthily, avoiding packaged foods. We've really got to change our entire lifestyle. So that's why you should vote for someone at council that's, I don't know, these young people there, you know, you got a lot of energy, so we get some good ideas, but God, we have to look in the mirrors. That's terrible though. I'm starting to lecture people again. No. Okay, here's another take on it.
30 seconds.
Okay, I'll give you my 30 seconds. I can do my $1 million promise, okay? Because I'm a privileged retired teacher with an undeserved index pension, I'm gonna work for free. So I'm gonna get $1 million. Listen to this, $1 million. No salary at all. So I'm not taking any of the salary. It's only for 2 years. So it's only like a $250,000 when you count in different things. A car allowance, are you other candidates gonna take the car allowance? Like that's ridiculous. And what about the benefits?
Right.
And really the office budget. The office budget is incredibly bloated, and it's like I'll give it, and I'm gonna take all that money.
We're over time there, Craig. Thank you. Thank you for your response.
It's maybe not a 30-second promise, but
yeah, maybe you can work it into your closing statements, because that's the next and final section tonight. Les sections finales, c'est les déclarations de clôture des candidates et des candidats ce soir. Alors vous avez tous 2 minutes chaque pour dire des mots, dire quelques mots concernant vos visions, pourquoi les résidents de Cumberland devraient voter pour vous. Yes, please feel free to go ahead and give your 2-minute closing statements. So let's start with Lise Pascal.
Chers résidents et résidentes de Cumberland, j'espère être la voix que vous choisirez le 5 octobre. Je crois fermement au travail acharné pour atteindre ses objectifs et ses rêves, et je suis prête à travailler fort pour vous tous et toutes, sans exclusion. La représentation compte beaucoup, et je suis excitée de pouvoir ajouter plus de diversité d'opinions et une différente perspective autour de la table du conseil municipal. Je suis prête à écouter activement, établir une communication constante avec vous, vous mettre à jour régulièrement sur tous les enjeux importants, désigner un adjoint spécial pour les enjeux ruraux, un autre pour les enjeux en banlieue, pour s'assurer que tous ont un suivi égalitaire, vous envoyer un bulletin de nouvelles avec des informations locales et vous diriger vers des services de la ville qui ne sont pas vraiment facile d'accéder. Maintenir la communication, vous inviter les membres de la communauté de la ville d'Ottawa à parler des enjeux qui les préoccupent dans l'émission qui a lieu déjà durant ma campagne, les conversations communautaires avec Lise Pascal. Et travailler fort, tout simplement pour vous, parce que c'est ce que j'aime faire, comme vous le voyez dans mon engagement communautaire. Donc, donnez-moi l'opportunité de vous présenter. So, I will push for the City of Ottawa to embrace Vision Zero, to ensure that our roads are safe for all, because road safety with car speeding is the most important issue that I hear everywhere. I will call on the City of Ottawa to commit to banning all plastic bags by 2022. It's overdue. Support the Orléans Forest Project and encourage businesses and everyone to recycle more because, you know, nearly 75% of all waste in the city could be either recycled or composted with a green bin program. That's what I'll do, hold consultation, public consultation information sessions to inform you and everyone on the initiatives the city is taking to reduce emissions. Finally, I will push for a functioning LRT system. At least I'll ask questions, and a reliable and affordable public transit. You know, we know it's a necessity for a greener and cleaner Ottawa. So thank you very much. I'm grateful for all your support.
Thank you, Lise Pascal. Over to you, Craig, and then we'll hear final closing statements from Yvette. Craig, please go ahead.
OK, merci. Est-ce qu'on enregistre? On voit que ça dit, on n'était pas supposé, qui enregistre?
C'est Emily qui est en train d'enregistrer pour Ecology Ottawa. Oui.
Oh, OK, d'accord. OK, ben pour terminer, je vais m'exprimer dans la langue de Molière, si je peux, parce que il y a des enjeux importants pour les francophones. Donc, je trouve que les gens de Cumberland devraient choisir un candidat qui est capable de s'exprimer en français plus ou moins bien, tu sais, comme Denis ou Yvette ou Lise Pascal. Et pas est-ce qu'il y en a d'autres? Peut-être Henry? Est-ce que Henry Valois? En tout cas, c'est important et les enjeux sont très importants pour les francophones. Et aussi, ce qui est plus important encore dans cette élection, c'est de voter pour un candidat qui va qui croit vraiment on doit changer, que ce n'est pas acceptable. Si on est satisfait avec tout va bien à l'hôtel de ville, vous aimez bien M. Watson et M. Blais, et le contrôle des développeurs et la magouille la façon que les politiciens dépensent, certains politiciens dépensent leur office budget. Je m'excuse, je voulais juste revenir là-dessus. C'est 265 000 $ par année. Et je trouve que la façon que cet argent-là est dépensé, c'est un scandale. Donc, je voudrais avoir, écoute, si je suis élu, je vais prôner la transparence et je vais prôner l'équité. Et je ne sais pas comment terminer. Votez pour un candidat honnête, c'est tout ce que je peux vous dire. Et ce ne sera sûrement pas Catherine Kitts. Je suis vraiment déçu qu'elle n'est pas ici. Il n'y aura pas d'autres débats. Et l'autre faux journaliste, Patrick, encore moins.
Merci, Craig. On est à temps plein.
Je n'ai pas fini d'attaquer les gens.
So also, I noticed that Mark is back on the call, so Mark can also say a few words, maybe after Yvette. Yvette, please go ahead for your closing statements. 2 minutes.
Merci. Premièrement, je souhaiterais remercier encore Ecology Ottawa d'avoir organisé ce débat ce soir, si important, et me donner l'opportunité de démontrer ma plateforme et mes idées par rapport aux enjeux environnementaux importants auxquels le quartier Cumberland ainsi que notre ville d'Ottawa fait face. Tonight, I have been clear that if you want a candidate that is not funded by developer influence, but by residents of our ward and this city, vote for Yvette Ashiri. If you want a candidate that is ready to fight for a city that puts the environment at the top of its agenda, vote for Yvette Ashiri. And if you want someone who will bring democracy and accountability back to City Council, vote for Yvette Achiri. This is an important year for us. We will be voting on things like the official plan and transportation master plan that will have deep impact for our city for years to come. You need an ally at City Council that will be a voice for an official plan and transportation master plan that puts people at the center, and a plan with a strong focus and environmentally sustainable development and affordable housing. Cumberland needs someone who will stand up not only for the suburban part of the world, but also for someone who will prioritize rural issues, making sure that people get the same high quality service regardless of where they live. Imagine having someone at the City Council who knows how to advocate and make our voice heard. In the East End, we are always thought of last. I will make sure that we are heard first. Let me serve you and your family as your city councillor. Together, we will work on issues that matters most to you. Together, ensemble, vote for Yvette Achiri on October 5th. Thank you. Merci, miigwech.
Thank you, Yvette. You must have a timer in front of you because your timing is right on time. That's great, thank you. And then finally, let's see if we can hear from Mark. Mark, would you like to say a few words, 2 minutes, closing statements?
Sure, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Rob, look, I just wanted to send out my gratitude to your staff and you know, the folks that are concerned about the environment. On the farm, we recycle the tires, we recycle the oil, we recycle the steel, we send the garbage to the dump, and so we do everything we can to protect the environment. But at the end of the day, this is what you're going to get if you vote for SCARF. We're going back to the weekly garbage pickup, no limit on the bags. The city has to be clean if we're going to control this virus. We're going to scrap the ridiculous and costly green bin program. We're going to scrap the water tax on properties that are serviced with their own well and or septic system. I'm going to push to have the LRT equipped with a diesel locomotive that will look after its own heat and cooling and get people where they're going on time. Within the City of Ottawa boundaries, the Hydro One customers will be transferred over to the Ottawa Hydro customer base. And I feel it's very, very important that this council and the mayor has overstepped their boundaries by implementing a bylaw and using the force of the state to order businesses to close their doors, fining barbers $700 for cutting people's hair. I feel this is a breach of Section 6 of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And so I'll be making them accountable to those businesses if I'm elected. So vote for SCARF.
Thank you very much, Mark. And thank you to all the candidates and to all the people who joined us here tonight. Merci à vous tous, à tous les candidats et candidates pour votre temps et vos efforts. We know that it's a tough slog, especially during this COVID time. So hats off to everyone running for office. Thank you very much for responding to the survey, for participating in the debate. We hope that those who joined us tonight found it helpful and informative. Please feel free to visit ecologyottawa.ca for the candidates' answers to some other questions, and I'm sure the candidates would be happy to answer particular questions. If you wanted to follow up with any of them, you can find their email addresses on the City of Ottawa website. I just want to say also thank you to Emily for all the technical support, yes, and sorry for a few technical glitches, but hopefully it was a good experience for everyone. And we still have time for Yvette to celebrate her daughter's birthday tonight. So later than we want it to be, but still okay. So thank you very much to everyone for participating, and have a great night. And don't forget, voting day is October 5th.
Thank you so much, Rob. Thank you, everyone. Merci.